Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Major 2 Miami is coming up this week. OpTic Texas are the #1 seed. Predators responded to the situation, giving lots of credit to Dashy for his performance, especially against the Subliners this past weekend, but also saying that he believes himself he can play better when they get to LAN. If OpTic improve on LAN, how far can they go, especially after their 7-0 online records? But will other teams potentially improve as well? Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, thought I'd mention this. If you guys have any thoughts and interest on what you'd want to see the Major trophy looking like in Toronto. Of course, it's Major 3 this year, but it was the same time as what Major 5 last year, or whatever, middle of May type thing. This, of course, is last year's trophy, that beautiful squirrel with the nut, as it were, and they did this one as well previously, and here's a squirrel again on the Flank Watch Party setup last year. So this year, they're looking for another option, and as they say, we've done the squirrel, done the crown, what should it be this year? There's been various suggestions here in the replies, and they may still be looking for, some ideas. Zinni comes up with a rather interesting one. And it is plausible that Toronto and Scrappy could turn up to the event looking for the three-peats. They won the first Major. They're not the favourites, Toronto, for sure, to win this upcoming Major. But I think it would not be wise to necessarily overlook them, and we'll discuss why here in the coming minutes. And then, of course, if that was to be the case, they would turn up to Major 3 looking for the three-peats. But I'm not so sure if Zinni's idea is going to see the light of day on this one. Couple of names just to look at who I thought was kind of remarkable. Players that have had at least one 1.0 plus KD qualifier stage in every game from Cold War to Modern Warfare 3. A relatively exclusive list here. Cellium, of course, is on here. aBeZy is on here. HyDra and Attach are on here. Pretty impressive that Attach is on here, I think, because these other names, I'm not even going to say the word again. You know the word I'm thinking of in terms of what X has been talking about to characterize some players, and I have a slightly different definition of it. We talked about that a few days ago. But I just think it's impressive that Attach is on here, to be fair, and the other names maybe aren't that much of a surprise, but, there's some names that are excluded here, which is interesting. But speaking of who goes into this event as the potential favourites, wanted to look at some of these hardpoint stats here that IU Turtle has put together. So these are the numbers. I'm not going to show everything of the data set just so it fits nicely on the screen, but you guys can see pretty much what is going on here. Ultra still this season are 24-3 in their hardpoint win record, which is pretty absurd. They've maintained, to be honest, and 24-3 is absurd, let's be real, over an entire Major split and another stage of qualifiers. Their hardpoint has still been basically impeccable. They average 243 points a game, which is obviously more than anybody else. Some teams average lower just because of what maps they tend to play. Some maps don't always go to 250, stuff like this. But 180 points against, which is the fewest of anyone. Their average differential is still the highest in the league by a very long way. And sure, maybe some of that is bolstered by their dominant Major 1 performance, but still, they've maintained that to some extent. And there's always debate, is hardpoint the most important mode? Is search and destroy the most important mode? I think it does sometimes depends, but the reality is that hardpoint is played map 1 and map 4, so if you're great at hardpoint, you can often win series before you even need to worry about a final map search and destroy. That's kind of where Ultra have been, but their control has never been that good. They've always not been great at invasion control this year. That was the only map they lost back at Major 1, which is absurd to think about. But even in recent times, on the Karachi and elsewhere, they do seem a bit vulnerable. They're probably not going to win every hardpoint this event again, as they did back in Major 1. But if they could win the majority, it puts them in a good spot. Will their search and destroy get better when they get to LAN? It probably should, but, you've also got to remember, they loved Skid Row Search, and that's now gone. They don't seem as keen on Rio Search, which is now in the game. Vegas 6-0'd them on that not that long ago. So Ultra are definitely, for map pool reasons, and just I think because other teams have got better, more vulnerable than they were back at Major 1, but their hardpoint dominance still shouldn't be overlooked, I would say. How good they've been on that this season. Ali as well did get the hair dyed. I guess it's kind of purple. I'm not sure it's necessarily a Los Angeles Gorillas purple, but I guess it's good enough, right? As she said the other day, if Gorillas were to beat FaZe, she would dye her hair, and here we go. But unfortunately for Gorillas, they're probably still getting slammed out first round top 12 because they play Thieves or FaZe in losers round 1, and despite their historically good record against Thieves, imagine they played FaZe again and knocked them out. I mean, okay, it's probably a 0.01% chance, maybe not quite that low, but the chances of FaZe losing to Thieves and then going out to Gorillas, I mean, it would be quite the story, wouldn't it? But it's not going to happen, let's be real. Probably FaZe will beat Thieves, and then Thieves obviously beat Los Angeles Gorillas just the other day, but still, LAG managed to screw over Thieves again by beating FaZe, and therefore Thieves had to play FaZe round 1 down in this tournament, a matchup that just isn't favoured for them. FaZe are possibly beatable, but I'm just not sure I see Thieves being the team to pull that off. So lots of reaction, of course, to the crazy reverse sweep. I wonder if this will affect New York in any way. I don't necessarily think that it should. They will feel like they came into the series. They tried a couple of things in the map pool. They probably didn't need to give OpTic their Karachi Search and Destroy map 5. I don't expect they would when they get to LAN. And that is still the question that I've got about OpTic in terms of not necessarily translating their performance to LAN. It's more so from a map pool perspective. Do they really have the strength in depth of their Search and Destroy map pool? We don't really have the evidence on that yet. We know they're great at Karachi, but I don't think they're going to get that very often at the Major, so then we're going to have to see more of their Rio Search, more of their Invasion Search, and if those are improved as well, then sure, OpTic can win this event for sure. If they haven't, then I think they're not going to win. But I do think that OpTic probably are the favourites here. They're the number 1 seed, they have the easiest side of the bracket if there is one, and they've arguably played the best COD, at least consistently, over the last couple of weeks. Yes, they very much should have probably lost to Rocker, they arguably should have lost to Boston in that Game 5. They've been scraping by some series, but they're 7-0 at the end of the day. And Pred says that there's plenty of teams, maybe he feels like further down in the league, that are really good online. But on LAN, he doesn't expect that to be the same story. I don't think Pred is really talking about the top teams, right? The teams that they expect to be really competing with for the major championship. But Pred says like he thinks he can play better than he has done over the last couple of weeks. He reckons that there's certain teams that they've maybe gone the distance with online, that he doesn't expect that to be the case on LAN, and just says that they can level up even further when they get to Miami.
2v2, what even happened here? Oh wait, Bruce made the read. Bruce saw nothing and he's like, fuck it, I think they're going A. Bruce made such a good read, bro. This is such a good play from Bruce. I love this from Bruce. He heard the door, we heard the door open, bro. I remember this shit.
Knows it he very well. Maybe tested here at A. Does he catch the timing? Doors pop. There's the first.
Oh my god. Let's fucking go, baby. I'm glad, Chad. We went 7-0. Like, honestly, like individually, like Ant played really well this split. Like me personally, I played like super average towards like my standards and like how I usually play. But like that's because we've been just working, bro. We've been working on like fundies, man, just trying to get the structure out. Because we know like we all have the talent to like, so, like we just spend a lot of time working on S&D and just making sure we get the like people running into the right spots of spawn and shit like that. But I mean, online COD is insane because online COD's insane, chat. Because so many people are just so much better online. I can't wait for LAN.
I'd be mind blown if New York wins.
Really? Thank you, Damon.
Bro, did you?
DB3 has spoken. FaZe just lost to LAG.
Okay.
Yeah, but New York look a lot. I said but they look good this split.
Dude, they just came last. You know, all their points are from online, right?
Yeah.
You know they're in like third, fourth place.
Yeah, but they're not
all
all
of my
LAN
picks.
team.
I'm factoring in the last LAN.
Listen. I think New York is. I think they're a solid search team. I mean, you just watch them play Team Slayer versus us in Control, so I mean, they kind of got to figure that one out. Their hardpoint, I don't know. I think they're a weird team to play against in hardpoint. They played better than us on one of the maps, but I can't see them beating FaZe, to be honest.
Does any not know the difference between
like,
LAN and online?
I think they still have obviously all the talent. I think FaZe in a better spot. I don't even care if they lose.
Well, yeah, 3/4 of New York won 3 tournaments last year, including the World Championship.
That's a good
shout. I know the difference between LAN and online. Just because New York had one bad LAN split does not mean this team is an online team.
So Dashy getting a lot of credit for this play as well. I know there was lots of debate on this as to whether, if it had been LAN, would Dashy have made this play? Would he have like heard what he heard? Because I think, as Pred said, they heard the door open. So that's how Dashy knew that that they were above him here, rather than necessarily hearing footsteps. Because on LAN, when you've got the crowd, you've got the white noise in your ears, it's more difficult to hear things. We certainly saw that back at Major 1, right? If you guys remember, when people were taking off dead silence quite a lot because it's just difficult to hear things as much so on LAN. So people were saying, okay, would Dashy have made this play on LAN? It might have been more challenging, but the read was still the read that he made at the end of the day, a good prediction, and of course he gets the victory as a result. What I thought was interesting though as well was Karma's comment on this New York FaZe series, because Karma deserves a lot of credit, I think, for OpTic's turnaround in their Search and Destroy. It's a funny one, I think, with coaches, right? Because some coaches get lots of praise, even though we don't really know how much they do. And then some coaches, certainly recently, have got loads of criticism. You know, people are looking at Brian Saint of the Ravens and the struggles that they've been having. People are looking at Rambo Ray of the Seattle Surge, thinking like, what does this guy actually do given the circumstances? So there's criticism levels, but at the same time, I think you've got to go the opposite way to say, look, when a team had struggles in Search and Destroy, and they've clearly made some significant steps in that mode. Credit, I think, belongs, at least in part, to Karma for the turnaround they've made in that mode so far. As I say, when we get to LAN, we'll see how their Rio and their Invasion Search and Destroy kind of fare up, because if those maps are good, then OpTic are, like, seriously best team in the world candidates. If they aren't so good, then I think they're going to have a harder time, certainly in Game 5s against some of the top teams. And let's not forget, the Grand Finals is like a best of 7, isn't it? With 3 Search and Destroys. So, you know, you can't afford to be weak in that mode across loads of different maps if you want to win a Grand Finals best of 7. But Karma doesn't believe that New York really have a chance against FaZe. Quite the observation, just because Subliners did beat FaZe online the other week, and I don't think it's anywhere near as clear-cut as Karma here is suggesting, but maybe Karma has reason to believe otherwise. He watches the games on a different level, he sees all the practice and the scrimmages and all these type of factors. But I still do think New York can be really strong, you know, and especially on LAN even. Yes, they've been winning most of their series online so far, like every single point that New York have so far this season is from online COD, because they got bopped out of Major 1. I don't really expect that story to continue here. I do think they're a serious threat. Do I have them winning the event in New York? No. I don't think they're going to quite have enough down the stretch, but you can easily put them in the Grand Finals. You can easily have them winning this event. I know that many people do. I think they'll look back at that OpTic series, seeing they got reverse swept and thought, damn, we could have very much easily here been 7-0 and with the #1 seed going into the Major. So I think they're definitely capable of it. But yeah, basically, Karma thinks that FaZe are going to come different to New York when it comes to LAN, and I wouldn't be massively surprised with that either. This is what the reverse sweep boys came up with actually yesterday. There was some degree of, well, coin flipping, shall we say, here to decide who was going to win some of these series, because if they were tied at 2-2, they had to make some sort of call. But maybe as you'd expect, they've got the top 4 teams placing top 4. The challenge for me is, where do you go from there? I actually have a very similar prediction to what the guys have come up with here. My feeling is that with all the talk about OpTic, with all the talk about the Subliners, FaZe and Ultra, when you get to the event, might just prove again to be the strongest teams. I think it's interesting with Toronto. They're definitely better, I think, than what they've showed online. And they will come up differently, right? As Pred says, I think OpTic can play better as well. I have some questions as to whether Shotzzy can maintain this level of dominant individual impact when we get to LAN, when the game plays slightly differently. But at the same time, maybe Shotzzy is slightly less impactful on LAN. But I would say that Kenny and probably Pred, and arguably even Dashy, should possibly be more impactful on LAN. So maybe that cancels each other out. So maybe OpTic still get better on LAN. Toronto, I think, definitely will be. FaZe, I think, will be. New York, I guess we don't know. Like, they didn't show much on LAN, did they, back at Major 1? So that is still a bit of a question mark to me. And yes, FaZe got bodied, in Game 5 at least, by the Gorillas the other day 3-2, which was embarrassing, and it was pretty bad for FaZe. And their sub-base hardpoint is clearly still atrocious, and I don't imagine they're really going to be wanting to go near that one, especially in some of these more important series as the tournament progresses. But nonetheless, the COD that FaZe played over the previous couple of weekends was mesmerizingly good, and pretty much the best, I think, that anyone has played this split. And FaZe always will get like 1 win a year, you know what I mean? Like, we know that they are destined to make Grand Finals and destined to lose Grand Finals, but they've got to win one, and my feeling is that maybe this is the one that they're going to end up winning. So I think my prediction is actually really, really similar here. Some of these other games I think I would have going a little bit differently, but I think my prediction would be very similar actually to what these guys have come up with, that, yeah, FaZe Ultra Finals, FaZe taking the win, Drazah talking all sorts of trash on Scrappy over the other side of the stage. Zero was joking around about this last night on the Dope Chick episode that, you know, Keeks is going to come on the stage, he's going to, like, slap up Scrappy and all this. It's going to be entertaining, whatever happens. But, I mean, look, we're pretty confident that we're going to get to the championship Sunday. There's going to be probably the 4 teams we expect to be there. And then at that point, like, who has any idea what's going to happen from then to the rest of the tournament? I felt the same way, really, at Major 1, when it was, like, going into the Sunday. Apart from Minnesota Rocket, that I didn't have much faith in to go any further, I just didn't really know who was going to win between Toronto, FaZe, and OpTic. My feeling was that Toronto were the stronger team. That's how it turned out to be. But it wasn't clear, even given the fact that Toronto turned out to be the strongest team by far. This tournament, I don't think there's any strongest team by far. So it's just so wide open. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comment section below. Just one final thing here to mention when Brian Sat thought was kind of cool, looking at the rookie seasons respectively between Scump and Scrappy. Just, obviously it's a long time ago now, right? Kind of, yeah, definitely brings me back here. But yeah, Scump played 6 events in that season, 2 championships, 2 finals appearances, average placing of the following, and Scrap's numbers were basically identical. Now, does that mean Scrap's going to go on to have the same success and results that Scump has done? fan? No, obviously it's a different world nowadays, but it's still worth thinking about, and I also don't think it's worth overlooking that Toronto team going into this major. But very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.